I did share that other one with my coworker, so it would be great if we could record.
Perfect. We've got it going. So today's really easy because we're only working under the website tab for the most part. So this training is going to be a little bit more concentrated. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is our media manager. So that's kind of what I like to refer to as our in-house file store. So basically, anytime you want to use an image in your website, anytime you want to link to a document, you're going to save this in the media manager. So we can't do any copying and pasting into our editors. We'll always have to link to the image or bring in the image from the media manager. Same with documents. So this is broken up into 4 different folders right now for you for a little bit of organization, but you can always create additional folders. So if you're in this images and one day you guys end up getting a bunch of sponsors, you can always create an additional folder, maybe called sponsors. And now what we've done is created a submenu in here, and you can create as many submenus as you want to. Same with documents. I would typically leave site and slideshow images. Well, site I would typically leave alone. This is really for our designers, so this is where your logo is housed. The slideshow images, you can always come in here and add additional slideshow images if you'd like to. My recommendation is sticking with how these are currently named. So do like a slide-06 JPEG for the next one. And I'll show you why I would recommend that as we continue on in our training. So if we wanted to add an image to like the sponsors folder, all we would have to do is come to the bottom down here, select upload. We can grab the image that we want to bring in just by highlighting it from your computer, open, and now it's in our media manager, which is awesome because we can access this from within the site anywhere. And I'm just going to delete these out because they are not applicable to you.
Okay. And do those images need to be JPEGs? Can they be PNGs? Can they be anything other than a JPEG?
Yeah, they can be PNGs. I think that's it. I don't know what other file types you might want to save in here. Now, documents.
I typically use JPEG, so it's probably fine. I was just curious if there was anything else allowed.
You can, technically anything. I don't think that AI files save. I don't even know what that technically means, but it would need to be, I know those can be easily turned into PNGs or JPEGs, but like documents can be any type of format. It really doesn't matter. It can be a PDF, it can be a doc, whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so I kind of point this out first just to show you where you're going to be accessing all of the images and documents from when you're adding them to articles. So now I want to go ahead and dive into our widgets for just a second. Widgets and our articles are going to become, they're 2 different things. So we use widgets in our website because that's what allows the website to be responsive. So if somebody wanted to go on your website on a cell phone, all of specifically the home page pieces will stack on top of each other. So you'll notice here, now I've got my main, my homepage left, my homepage right, the announcements widget, the upcoming events widget. These are all just going to stack right on top of each other. So this allows the person on the cell phone to still have full usage of anything on your site. That includes the menu bar, right? So widgets are what basically make our website responsive.
Okay.
So to talk a little bit more about those, I'm going to go under website and widgets. So this is that homework piece for tonight. So I'm just going to ask that you go in and update homepage right, homepage main, and homepage left. I've mentioned those already a few times. Just to reiterate, we've got homepage main, homepage left, and homepage right. So if you wanted to update any of this information, all you'd have to do is maybe you want to update that homepage main, dive into that widget, and then you can just type in here basically like you're typing in a Word document. I am going to point out some differences in here when we create an article together here in just a minute. So I'll teach you how to use this WYSIWYG editor if there are some pieces that maybe you're not as familiar with, but for the most part, it's pretty easy peasy. So this is how you'll update those 3 different areas on that home page.
Okay.
Then we've got our slider images. So that's where we have put in those images that are slide showing through on your homepage site. If you ever wanted to update this, change it, it's actually really, really easy. You'll just always place your cursor right next to the last image that you have in here, or if you want it to pop up between two images. I like to highlight my image and then just arrow over to make sure that my cursor is right next to the image. You don't want any spaces or gaps. To bring in a new slideshow image, all you have to do is select your image button down here at the bottom. That's going to bring that mini media manager up. And if you always save your slideshow images in the slideshow images folder, then you can just dive into that slideshow folder, select whatever image you want to populate, and then you're going to insert this image. And that's just going to bring that additional image up in the slideshow as that slide showing through. Did that process make sense?
I think so, yes.
Okay, awesome. We do have an HTML editor for in here. I don't think that that's super beneficial when we're adding these slideshow images, but just making sure that you're placing the cursor. The biggest piece of this is making sure that all of your slideshow images are the same size. So we can inspect one of these images to see what they are. This looks like it's a little bit different than what it typically is for this area, which if we wanted to do that, we could go back into our media manager, back into our slideshow folder. We could open up one of these images. If you right click, and you might already know this, but if you hit inspect, that's going to tell us in here. So this is 980 by 350. So the next time you want to add a image in, it would just have to make sure that it's 980 by 350.
Okay, and how do I do that?
How do you make a image maybe like that size?
Yes.
So I typically use Pixlr, and I can send you the link for Pixlr. It's what I use for my photo editor. That's a really good question, by the way. So I'm going to send this link to you. So when you're trying to make an image a specific size, let's maybe find an image really fast. So let's search flowers, maybe like background. So this is a pretty image. If I save this, I can save image as, I'm just going to save this flowers example. Going into my photo editor, I can begin by opening this image. So I'm just going to go to File and Open Image, and I can select whatever image from my computer I want to. So I'm going to select that flowers example that we just saved. Now this shows me down here at the bottom, the image or the size of this image is 491 by 368. Do you see that there?
Yep, I do.
So if I wanted to make this larger, I can actually look at the image size, and I think it was like 950 maybe, and I can change this image size to 950. The second dimension of my image auto-populates to 712, which is fine. The width is really what I'm trying to match.
Okay.
So this still, even though it is now the width that it needs to be, it's not the height that it needs to be. So in order to change that, I can go back to my file, and I'm going to open a new image. Whoops, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I'm going to open a new image. And so I think that the image needed to be like, what was it, 950 by, what was it? It was actually 980, but I'm going to pretend like it was 950 by 350. So right now, I know that my image is way bigger than 350. So I'm going to make sure it matches 950 by 350. And I'm going to say, okay. So it's created this white box for me that's kind of like restricting the size that the image needs to be. So if I go back to that flower image, I can copy it. Are you on a PC or a Mac?
PC.
So you can do that. I think yours is Control A to select the entire image, and then Control C to copy it.
Okay.
I can go back into that white space, and I'm going to Command or Control V. And now I can move this image. If I actually select this, the arrow with the little plus sign, it's the Move tool. And now I can use my arrows to change what part of the image I want to be brought into this. So basically what we needed to do was restrict, or we needed to blow it up first. But once we blew it up to make the width that it needed to be, we lost the height that it needed to be. So now I'm restricting down the height. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep, I got it.
Cool. So then I would just hit File, Save, and then I can just save it as a JPEG. And then from here, I would save it to my computer and upload it into my Media Manager from my computer. Have you ever used a photo editor like this before?
Not quite like this, but it seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, awesome. It is, and you know, I honestly have had zero experience with design before I started this, before I started my position, and it took me a long time where finally I had enough people saying, well, how do you restrict the, you know, how do you change the size of an image? And I honestly didn't know, so I went to my designer, and he kind of, I'm cheating because he actually had to train me on how to do all this stuff and give me kind of examples. So, but
gotta use
since he's done so, do what?
You need to use what you've got available to you. That's not cheating at all.
Well, and it's helped me a ton because I would have never known how to do this, you know, unless somebody had shown me. So I totally understand. Yeah, so I sent you that little free link and it works really well. You do have to, I think, download it, but I downloaded it to my computer, and I'm always kind of cautious about that kind of thing, especially since I have a work computer, but it's been an awesome program to use. Cool. So if you ever forget, by the way, another little trick in here, if you ever forget what size this image was, all I did was right click, select inspect, and then it tells me right in the code exactly what size, what width and height this image is.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I'm going to go back on our website and widgets. So that is how we add those slider images, right? So all I did, once again, was place my cursor right next to the previous image, selected that image icon, kind of filtered through my different folders, and then selected the image I wanted to bring in and inserted the image. And that's how we can kind of change those slideshows.
Okay.
All right. The member landing my name is page. So when your members log in, they're immediately brought to a member landing page. And this right here is it's part of what they'll see. I think it's super cool because it's going to data merge in some personal information from their profile. Right now, we're just data merging in their contact name, their organization name, and their member type. If you wanted to change any of those pieces, you can just highlight, so maybe you don't want member type to be a part of this. You can highlight member type, come to the bottom of your editor, select merge data, and this is going to bring up all of the different fields from their profile. You can select any, you can select any of the, if you think back to our database training, up here, all of these items in brackets are built-in attributes. If you remember, that includes physical address, email address, phone number, first name, last name, organization. Then down here in the middle, unbracketed are the custom attributes that we've included or added. And then below these, we have the system attributes. So you can bring any of those in.
All right.
Other items that we have, the footer info, super easy peasy. It's just the name of your association. You can update this. The only time I've ever really seen associations change this is if you enter down and maybe you want to put an address or something in. You can do that in this area.
Okay.
We have, custom login page content lower half and custom login page content top half. I highly doubt you'll ever need to use this, just in case you ever do. Just to show you what this is going to affect, I'm going to use my MemberClicks test site. So this is the login page. Those two widgets will allow you to place information or verbiage above the login section up here or below the login section.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, typically I don't see it used. I had one association who put in not a member, join now by clicking here and become a member today or something like that, which was really clever. It was a great way to advertise. But other than that, I would just kind of leave that alone.
Okay.
All right, we have login container. So I'm going to just show you what this does, and you can kind of determine what you prefer. Login container actually creates this kind of gray box here. If I turn the login container off, so if I unpublish it, which you can unpublish any of these, by the way, just by double clicking that green publish button. If I come back here, now instead of having that big gray box, it's just this little blue button.
Okay.
That's totally up to what your preference is on how that looks. I just added it back.
Okay. Then is there when it's the gray box, is there opportunity to put some text in that box?
There's not any text you can add in that box. So if I'm not logged in, let me show you. If I went to MIAOT, so if I'm part of the public and I'm logging into your site, see how it lets me put my username and password in right up here at the top?
Yep.
So that's the big difference there. If I did not have that login box on, so after I'm logged in, it's going to look like this. If we turn this off, just to show you again. It doesn't allow me to put my login credentials up at the top. I actually have to hit member login, and then that brings me to the member login page.
I see. Okay, got it.
So that's kind of the big difference. Do you want me to leave that off to have the blue button, or did you like having the login section up at the top?
I think I like having the login there, so I like the gray.
You like the gray? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is announcements. So this is super easy peasy. The announcements is just that announcements widget, which is located here on the right-hand column.
Okay.
So if you wanted to keep that up to date, and I love that this is separate from all the articles, because to me it's so much easier to find. That announcements area plus your home page are probably what you're going to be updating the most within your site. The rest of the content usually stays the same. So it kind of sets it off to the side, and you can update this as much as possible, or as much as you'd like to.
Okay, but the size of that box in that right column always remains the same.
It'll actually stretch. It'll stretch down. So if we put, just to show you an example, let's say you had 2 paragraphs of information that you wanted to showcase. It's just going to stretch along the side of the page.
Okay.
So it can be as long or as short as you want it to be.
Got it.
All right. Any questions on any of these widgets that we just covered?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty clear.
Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to dive into how we can create an article or a page of content. I use those phrases interchangeably in our system. Article is what it's called. So we're going to go through the stages of creating a page of content and then linking it up to our main menu. There's a lot of steps involved in this process, but it's not complicated. It just takes, I think, a little bit of practice. So I'm going to start by creating a new article by selecting this Articles tab. This is going to bring us to our article manager. This is where all of the articles within your website are housed. So if you wanted to make any edits to any of the existing content in here, maybe the About page, you would just select that article, and then you can make those changes right in here, like I mentioned earlier, just as if you were working in a Word document.
Okay.
If we wanted to create a new article, we're actually going to use the different icons up here in the top right-hand corner. You will not use all these icons, so don't feel like you have to memorize them all. The main ones that you're going to be using is the plus sign, which allows you to create a new article. And then the move to trash. So let's say this contact us you really didn't need anymore. You can just tag it and select move to trash. If you were like, oh man, I accidentally just deleted that and didn't mean to, you can always view your trash. there's that contact us. You can select it and you can restore this.
Super.
And yes, I want to restore it. And that's going to bring it right back. So now if I go back to your articles, it's going to bring it right back in here.
And how long does it leave items in that trash?
It never deletes them.
Oh, I love that kind of trash. All right.
Me too.
Pull the recycling bin.
The contact us, so we just restored this. You'll notice it's unpublished. I could tag it and I could hit publish. To me, I prefer, you can also just double click on that green publish and it does the exact same thing.
Okay.
Something else that I want to go ahead and mention, you can change how these are ordered. It doesn't really matter in your articles like how they're ordered. If it is just more clear to you for some of these to be up in a different order, you can use these arrows to navigate them. This will really more so come in handy when you're looking at your menu item, because the order that you change the menu item in will actually reflect on the front end. I'll show you what I'm talking about when we get there in just a bit. But I'm just using my arrows right here to change where these are located.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and create a new article together. So I'm going to select new. And this brings us into like our article builder. Couple of steps here, it's not too bad. The first thing we want to do is always put a title to our article. Now this title isn't going to show up anywhere on the front end of your website. It's really just to help you navigate where you want this linked up to as far as the menu item goes. So like if I'm going to create a menu item called members only, I'm going to name my title of my article members only because that is consistent to me. That makes sense in my head that those are the same thing.
Okay.
That's going to make a little bit more sense in a second as well. So for our example, I'm going to create a members only tab. I like to just go ahead and paste my title of my article into the actual editor. Now, just to go ahead and point out, an alias is automatically created. The alias is going to create the direct link to this article. So if somebody typed in miaot.memberclicks.net/members-only, that would take us directly to this article. That would be the direct link to the article.
Okay.
So a lot of this I've mentioned a couple times. It's similar to as if you were working in a Word document, right? We've got our bold, italicize, underline, our strike throughs, and our different alignments. There are some things that are a little bit different. So you're familiar with changing font families, font sizes. We can highlight this different colors. We can make the text different colors. My biggest recommendation is leaving all of that alone. We have these formatted fonts in here for you. So heading 1 is what I would typically suggest you use for like headings on your pages. The reason I would use these formatted fonts versus any of this customized, font style, font size, all that stuff is really for two reasons. One, consistency, and the second, if you ever decided to change the colors of your website, the association went through a rebranding, you can always tell us what the new color is going to be, what the new colors are going to be, and we'll go ahead and change these colors for you. Anywhere that you use the heading 1 will auto update to the new colors that you've provided us. So you don't have to go to every single page and manually update the text for the rebranding. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes perfect sense.
So I would stick with kind of those formatted fonts for this.
Okay.
Some other things that are going to be a little bit different in here. So I showed you earlier how to bring in an image when we were talking about the slideshow images. I want to go ahead and re-show you how to do that. I always just place my cursor where I want the image to populate in at, come to the bottom of our editor, and there's our image button. Once again, that brings up our mini media manager. We can dive into any of these different folders. I'm just going to go into your site folder because I know that's where your logo is housed. I select the image and then I insert the image. Now, I may not like the size of the image. I may not like where the image is located or how the text around the image is in regards to the image. So if I wanted to change any of the appearance pieces, I can highlight or click on the image, come to the top of the editor and select this little teeny tiny tree icon. I'm going to go into the Appearance tab, and now I can change a couple of things about my image. So what I love is there's an example over here on the right-hand side that shows us exactly what we're affecting. The alignment has to do with how the text aligns around the image. My favorite alignment is just pushing the image left and having the text wrap left with the image. The dimensions will allow us to change the size of the image. So you'll notice there's this checkbox below the dimensions area. Always leave the constrain proportions checked. You'll put in a first dimension, and because we're constraining proportions, the system's going to auto-populate the second dimension for us.
Okay.
Vertical space is going to put in some type of space cushion between the image and text. So you'll notice now I have this little bit of space between the image and text below the image. So if I do that for horizontal as well, it does the same thing.
Okay.
A border is just going to put in a very basic black border. And then I can update this information. Now you'll notice our image is smaller. We have a black border. We've pushed the image left. We have that space between the image and text, and our text is wrapping left, starting at the top of our image. Did that process make sense to you?
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Two other things that are pretty different is how we can create internal and external links. So internal, I'm going to start with external links actually. We always want to type out whatever we're linking up. So if we wanted to link up any text to an external link, we're going to highlight that text, come to the top of our editor, and do you see that teeny tiny little link up there at the top?
I do.
If we select that, that's going to allow us to put in some type of link URL. So I'm just going to use your home page, grab the link, go back into the back end, and add that link URL here. One little tip that I want to give you, the target has to do with where this link is going to open up. So that means it's either going to open up in the same window that we're in, or it can open up in a new tab, new window. I would always suggest having the external link open up in a new window so that your members can continue to navigate your site while they have that new menu item open with that external link. That way it's not navigating them away from your site. Does that make sense?
It does.
Awesome. So we're going to give the target to open in a new window, and I'm going to insert. Internal links are a little bit different. So basically an internal link is anything that is internal to member clicks. Same thing, I highlight my text, but instead of going to the top of my editor, I'm actually going to come down to the bottom, and there's a little button down here called Site Links. By selecting that, it's going to bring up similar to the Media Manager, but a little different. I can access any articles that are created in the system, any community items, so we can link directly to your event calendar, forgot password, forgot username, my profile, social community, any of these community components. We can link directly to any of the menu items in here. We can link directly to any forms that we'll create for you, such as your membership application. We can link to directory searches, files. Files would be any of those documents that you might have had saved in the Media Manager. Probably won't end up using polls, but then events are going to be pulling from your event calendar. I'm going to go ahead and link to your event calendar for this. I'm going to insert the link, and now we've got our external link created and our internal link created. Any questions on the processes between those two?
Nope, I think it's clear.
All right, well, one little trick to make you look extra super duper fancy is anytime you have an external or internal link that are linked up, if you highlight that text and come back to your formatted fonts, scrolling all the way down to heading 6 will create your button in the system.
Oh, cool.
So that's how everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, how in the world did you do that? And you're going to be like, oh, I started coding, but really, it's just two little tricks.
In my spare time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. A couple of my favorite items in here, I've been using this undo button a good bit. It sounds silly, but like undoing and redoing saves me all the time. We have a spell check. Sure. I'm a horrible speller. And then we have an HTML editor. So if you are good at HTML, you can edit that in here. Or if you have some HTML from a previous site that you're wanting to bring in, you can do that.
Okay.
A lot of these buttons that you see through here are for tables. I would almost always recommend staying away from tables because it's a great way to take a really awesome responsive site to being non-responsive. If you try to look at a table on a cell phone, it's not responsive, and so it just kind of, to me, junks everything up a little bit.
Okay.
But you can create tables if you just really love them, and that's what these buttons through here would be for. And then this item here is just a separator. So if you had one item that you were talking about, you can use a separator. It's a light gray line to separate that from the next piece of information you're going to be talking about.
Okay.
All right. Once we've
I was just gonna say, it's funny that our old site encouraged us to use tables, so it's so interesting that you're encouraging us not to, and it makes perfect sense why I wouldn't.
I've heard that from so many different people, which is crazy to me because tables drive me insane. I hate working. I hate working with them. But yeah, I've heard that a lot from other people, and I don't know if the sites were maybe just not responsive, like on cell phones. But to me, that's so important because I would say, I don't know, depending on your members, but probably more than half of your members would be looking at the website on a cell phone these days.
Oh yeah, yep, definitely.
So once we've completed creating our article, there's one more thing we need to do, and that's setting the group access. So we talked on our database training about the differences between member types and groups, right? Member types determine the length of membership period and how much your members are paying. Groups determine the permissions that those member types have in the system. So if this is for everybody, we can tag everybody. For our example's sake, we said this is for members only, so that means we would untag prospect and public.
Okay.
Now, just another little trick. If you were going between the front end of your site and back end of your site and making a lot of edits to see kind of how you liked what you were doing and how it was reflecting on the front end, I can select apply, and that check mark box or check mark circle is going to save the changes on the front end, but keep you on this article so you can continue to make changes if you need to. Once you're 100% happy with how your article looks, you're going to just hit save, and that's actually going to save the changes just as the apply would, but bring you back to the article manager.
Okay.
Okay. So we've created our members only tab. Expired, that's weird. Unpublished, members only. That's bizarre. Oh, I bet you it's because my designer's still working in here. Huh. I'll come back to that in a minute. So once we've created our article, we're ready to link it up to a menu item. So just because we created it, as of right now, nobody can technically access it. So we're actually going to be working under our website tab again, this time going to menu items. Now it's going to feel like you're going through the same process like Groundhog Day, but we have to create the article and then actually link it somewhere on the front end. So the first thing we're going to determine is where do we want this article linked to? Do we want to link it to our main menu, our social network menu, or our member menu? The main menu is always going to be this menu right across up here at the top. There could be a social network menu that's actually going to show up right above this back to the top text. That's just going to include things like your Facebook icon, maybe your Twitter icon. I don't think I've received any of those links, so we don't have any of those items.
We're actually working on our Facebook page right now.
Perfect. So once you guys have that completed, you can send it to me and we can link it up here, and that's where that social network menu will be created. The member menu we're going to talk more about on our social community training. When your members log into the website, they're going to be brought to a member landing page. We looked at that name tag earlier where it's going to data merge in some fields such as their name and their member type onto that like little cute name tag, and then below that's going to be a member menu where they can view their profile and additional social community components. So anyways, right now we're just going to be focusing on the main menu. When you get to this area, my biggest advice is just asking yourself, what am I wanting to make a change to? For our example's sake, we're going to make a change to the main menu. So I'm going to select main menu. And this shows us the order of which our main menu is listed in. It's almost like the outline of a paper. So I talked about how earlier you can use these arrows to determine the order in which these menu items appear. If you wanted contact, or if you wanted about to come after home, you can just use our arrows to navigate about up. And now on the front end, that's actually going to reflect. So about is the second to the last. Once I refresh this, now about is right next to home.
Okay, cool.
If we want to create a new menu item, same icon. We're going to select that new plus sign. Now what this page is asking us is, it's saying, okay, you want to create a new menu item, but what type of menu item are you creating? We could technically link directly to any of our forms. So instead of having a link within an article going to a form, we could have a Join Now button on our menu, and it can link directly to the membership application. We can also link directly to external links or the forgot password link. The items that you're going to be using most often will be single article. So we just created an article together, and we're wanting to link the article up to somewhere on the main menu page. It's none of this fancy stuff. I always kind of say, like, we don't know how to do archived article list or category blogs. Those are really fancy. But we do know how to create a single article, and that's what we're actually linking to. Some of these other things, the event calendar, event list, really probably it's just going to be forms, and then the single article that you'll be linking to. Is this making sense so far?
Yep, I think so.
I'm going to select single article because that's what we're linking to. Now, the menu item, the title that we put in here is going to be how your member reads that menu item on the front page of your site. I mentioned earlier, I like to name the article the same thing as the member menu because I actually have to link them up. So I like to name my menu item members only. That's what I just named my article. When I say that we have to link them up, what I mean is just because I've told the system that I wanted a menu item on the main menu and that I want it called members only, the system still doesn't know when I click that button where it's going to go. So under select article, so I'm kind of skipping around here, but under the select article, I'm going to actually have to select what article is going to pop up when I click this menu item, and I want it to be members only. So the fact that these are named the same thing, to me, it just makes sense in my mind. The alias auto-populates, we talked about how that's what creates the URL. The parent item, so if I wanted this to be an additional main menu item, I'm just going to highlight top. And what that means is it's going to be another main menu in that big gray bar at the very top up here.
Okay.
We can also create sub or tertiary menus. So if I wanted this to be a sub menu of home, I would highlight home, and it's actually going to create a sub menu of home. Same thing, if I could highlight any of these, it would do the same thing. If we wanted it to be a tertiary menu, we'll actually see like a little hyphen. So for this instance, if I highlighted contact and members only was going to be a submenu of contact, if we came back in here later and wanted to create a tertiary menu, we would see contact, and then underneath that we would see like a hyphen members only. We could highlight the hyphen members only, and that would create the tertiary menu of that.
Okay.
I'm just going to highlight top because I want this to show up as part of the main menu. And then the last thing I need to do is set that group access again, so who gets to see this. And then from here, we're just going to save. So now if I go back to the home page of our site, I'm just going to refresh. Our members only tab has shown up. I'm going to select the members only tab, and it brings us to that members only article that we created together. How did that feel? Make sense?
Got it. Yep, I think so. I'll have to do it a couple times, but yeah.
It's not, kind of like what I said previously, it's not hard. There's just a lot of steps in creating the article and then linking the article to a menu item. And yeah, you're exactly right. It just is going to take you probably doing it a couple times. All right. So we've covered our articles tab and how to create articles. You will never need categories. You will never need the front page tab. These are really just for me. We talked about our media manager and how you can save images or documents. This is our in-house file store. We used our menu items to link our article up to the menu item. We talked about widgets. And then you will never need sponsor ads or news feeds, I pinky promise. Global check-in might be beneficial to you one day. So if you and another admin are in the site at the same time and you guys are just so happen to be making edits to the same article, it might lock one of you out of the system. If that ever happens, there's going to be like a button down here that's going to say, do you want to unlock members or something like that, and you can click that. That really is just to prevent you guys from making edits on top of each other.
Okay.
I've only had a question on that one time, but just to let you know. And then view my site just obviously brings you to the front end of your site in here. So you can also log in, or I like to create a, I like to sometimes access through a incognito window and go to the site that way. That way I can see it as part of the public and as a logged in member or an admin.
Yeah.
But you can access it either way.
Okay.
So I've just got two more things that I kind of want to touch on. One is the calendar. So I know you've got the calendar widget. Before I keep rolling forward, any questions for me?
I don't think so.
Okay. So the calendar is going to be how we're actually going to add items to our calendar. I'm just going to show you how to do this really quickly. So now I'm under the community tab. I'm going to calendar. You will not have all these options when you're logged in at the top. You're only going to see these first three. So basically, you'll be able to add locations and then link those locations to your events. So not only are you able to say, this is the event, this is the event, but you can also say, this is also where the event is taking place at. So I always like to start from right to left. First, I like to add my location. I'm just going to create an example really quickly with you. So I'm going to use that same new plus sign as my icon. And we can put in, I'm just going to say, Adrian's example. You're going to put in your street, city, state, country, your postcode or zip code, and then your telephone number. Now, after you put in the address of the location, you'll notice that despite this location being in New Hampshire, my map is still showing me Atlanta. You have to select this Find Address button, and that'll move you to the right location. So that's going to be what allows, there's actually going to be a little Google Maps that shows up on your calendar. I'm going to show you in a second. And your members can click on that to get Google directions to wherever the event is, which is really cool. But like I said, if you don't hit that Find Address, it's going to keep them right in Atlanta, and that probably won't make a whole lot of sense for you guys.
Nope, it won't. Okay.
Then down here, the description is just going to be all about the location. If it's in a specific lobby, if there's specific parking instructions, whatever it may be, you'll want to throw that in here. This is that same WYSIWYG editor, so you're going to use this the exact same as we used it previously in creating that article together.
Okay.
Okay. Once we've created the location, I mentioned we're going to be working from right to left, so now we're actually going to create a category. This is what color codes our calendar for us. And so we have a default events category. We're going to go ahead and create a new category together. And you might want to call this like conferences or luncheons, something like that. Once again, this is just color coding your calendar. So it's going to draw your members or the members' eyes to this particular color if they're looking for this type of event. We can choose our color. If you want to get real fancy, you can always put in your own hex value for a color that matches your site. So I could come in here. Maybe I wanted to match that blue color. I have this little color dropper that I like to use. See if I can grab it. It's not going to let me. Well, all right, then that's no fun. Oh, I just had it. I think I just had it. Oh, bummer. I'll grab your You're gray. So I can just throw in my own hex value. This little eyedropper, I love. You can get this off Google if you don't have something similar already. And then we can save. I'm just going to publish this so that it's available to view on the calendar. And then the last piece of this is actually creating the event. So I'm going to manage events. Using that new to create a new event, we can title it. So I'm going to call this an example. We're going to choose our category. So we just created that conferences category together. We can choose our time zone. It's going to default for the time zone we set up in your account settings. We can have a start date. We can have an end date, start time, end time. There can be no specific end time. If this is something that is repeating, we can determine how often it repeats. We can put in the event description. We're gonna, and then we can also bring in images in here. We can also use site links. So most oftentimes I see this used, a lot of times I'll see associations create like a registration form, and then you can actually use your site links to create an internal site link and then turn it into a button by using heading 6 to create a link to the event registration. So your members, if they're on the calendar, they can register for that particular event right from the calendar.
Okay.
We're going to choose our location. Did I not save my location? Let me go back and see if I maybe didn't save it. I didn't. Let me add that back really fast so I can show you. Find address. Hey. There we go. Try this one more time. Go back to manage events. There's our example. Come down to the bottom, select our location. Now we see our location in here. And then I can save. So if we go back to the front end of your website and I update, is that published? One other thing we need to do is set our permissions, so who can actually view this. So if it's an event for only members, once again, you can just untag prospect or public. I'm updating. I'm going to go into your view full calendar. So now your upcoming event is listed under this upcoming events. We just created an example, but it shows you the date and it tells you the category. We can view the full calendar. It's going to show us the different categories we have along the top. And then we actually have our event on the days on our calendar that we've created it for. I love this because if you hover over it, I love that it says like first day of a 4-day event in that little magnified version. So it tells you how many days it's going to be going on.
That is cool.
We can click into this event and now it's going to give us where the event's located, when the event is, that event description that we've added in, and then we can click on this and it's going to bring us to the Google Calendar directions. Your members can also download your calendar onto their iCalendar if that's something that they happen to use. There is a way for you to add this to your, if you use a Gmail calendar, which is what I use, there's some kind of like multiple steps involved though, so just let me know if you ever want that added and we can do it together one day.
Okay.
And that's everything. Any questions on how we did that?
Yikes. No.
I know, this is like adding up now.
It all seems so clear and obvious while you're doing it, but like I said, it's just going to take me doing it a few times to understand it, I guess.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is like just remembering you're not going to break anything in here. I mean, aside from like deleting your members' profiles or like just crazy changing their member types, dealing with content, your site's not live right now. So if you totally mess up content, it's okay. Same with these calendar events. You're not going to mess anything up by playing around. And to me, I'm such a hands-on learner. I would totally recommend just getting in here and playing around as much as you can.
Okay.
I did want to talk briefly on one other thing. I'm going to talk about it more later on, but I just want to briefly touch on it. So under Community and Contact Center. The Contact Center is how you're going to send emails to your members from MemberClick. So we talked last time about how you can access the profile list, use your advanced search function to find those groups of individuals you want to send an email to. Use your Actions dropdown, select Contact, and that brings you in the Contact Center. You can also get to the Contact Center like I did just now, just by going under the Community tab and selecting Contact Center. From here, if we wanted to send an individual email out, we could just search your members. Maybe you just need to send this email to one person. You can tag them. I'm going to create some templates for you in here, including your welcome email, which is what we're going to use to send the welcome email out to all your members, introducing the new site. But the biggest point of what I want to mention here is this is just like the editors that we use today when creating your articles, looking at the calendar events. You can do the exact same things. You can use internal links. You can bring in images from your media manager. You have your external links button up here at the top. There is this attach file button down here at the bottom. Best practice would be to never use this. In fact, I wish we would just remove it. Research shows that any email that goes out with an attached file has a higher opportunity of ending up in a spam folder. Lucky for us, any item that you might want to attach to an email, instead you can save it in your media manager and link to it as an internal link, right? From saving it in your documents folder. So that's what I would recommend doing.
Okay.
In addition to that, these emails do go out one at a time. Once again, just trying to prevent these from winding up in spam folders. Because of that, it may take 30 minutes for all your emails to go out. I've had some associations who call me like 2 minutes after they've sent out their emails and they go, all of the emails aren't sending out, something's wrong with the system. And I'll say, give it about 30 minutes to an hour. They will all eventually go out. It just takes a little bit more time because our system is trained to send these out individually versus just one big mass lump sum.
Okay.
We can send this message now. You can always schedule to send a message at a later date. If you schedule to send the message out right now, so if we select now and we send the message, it's going to automatically sit in a queue for 5 minutes. I love this because I always go back and read my emails right after I send them because I'm panicking that I said something wrong. Because you have like that 5-minute window, if you realize there's a typo or if you provided the wrong information, you didn't mean to send it, whatever it may be, you can cancel it within that 5-minute window, and that'll prevent it from going out to anybody.
Okay. I like that.
I like that too. I had one person who just hated that feature, and I was like, are you kidding me? That is a butt saver for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So then when I send that email, whether it's to an individual or to a group of people that I have filtered, does the system save a copy of that email somewhere?
It does. So under our reporting tab and messages, and we're going to look at this together more later on, every email that comes out from the system is stored in here. So this a long time ago was sent out. It shows you when it was sent, how many recipients there were, where it came from, what type it was, whether it was like from a form or dues renewal. If this was pending, meaning it was not complete, like if it was in that 5-minute window, I think it says processing. And then the actions, there's either a cancel option and then a save option. Once that 5 minutes is up, the message sends and it shows complete, and that cancel option goes away. We can open this email, and this is going to show us all types of statistics, including how many recipients, if these individuals maybe had opted out of the contact center, if there was no email address, if the send failed, if it was open, bounced, if that person was unsubscribed. You'll also be able to see how many unique clicks there were in that email for the links that you provided, and you can always view the message as well.
Awesome.
And that is everything. That we went into a little bit more detail as far as covering picks today, covering that reporting center, just a couple other little things that we wouldn't typically cover. So I know it feels like a lot of info. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.